All right, we were messing around with David Bowie Space Oddity the other day. It's a little different from what we've been doing, although if you break it down into separate sections, that's the biggest difference. It's a long piece with a lot of sections in it, but those individual sections are made up of mostly the kind of chords that we've been using, with a couple little exceptions. So I think the best way to learn this one, if you're interested in, is part by part. Separate them out. And then there within that, at least from the perspective of playing guitar, you can try and find those melody notes, which is takes it to like a next level, or just try and just get through the chords, right? I'll send something with the chords in it, and I'll make a video of me just playing it through. So I'm going to start with the first part. I'm going to skip the intro because there's so many parts. And I think one of those, I'll mention the intro later because it pulls from another section. Okay, so that first part, the ground control, the major tom, right, never comes back to that part, does it twice. It's just C, D minor. And then it does that little kind of walk down, A minor with G in the bass, or you can call that A minor seventh. Right? And then D7 with that F sharp with the bass, that makes it nice. Right? And that's it. It does that a couple of times. If you're trying to find those melody notes, they're there. Right, so I put that with the chord. And then here, when it comes to that walk down, I'm using that pink. Trying to keep that going throughout the chords, right? Okay, so that's part one, right? It's C minor to E minor and that little walk down. Okay, it's harder to try and get those melody notes in there. But okay, so the second part also C, except it goes to E major, which has a much different sound. And then from that E major up to F major, we were exactly talking about this the other day with regard to Elizabeth Cotten songs, right? Freight Train was a big hit in the skiffle music in the 50s, so David Bowie would have known who Elizabeth Cotten was and familiar with her music. Anyway, it does that C to E major to F. So anyway, so... that part twice. When I play it instrumentally, I only do that part once, because without the vocal part where it's like a response, it seems repetitive, But anyway, it does that part twice. And the melody notes, again, if you're interested. Right. That's E. And I'm getting that F major seventh. I'm trying to get my thumb. It's hard because I got my classical guitar. It goes F minor. Right, so that's that part. It does it twice. That's part two, we'll call it. How's that? Then part three. Okay, it goes to the F major seventh to E minor, which that's from the introduction. That's why I didn't want to create another part for the introduction, right? So now it's at like that part that goes F major seventh, right, which is F with that open E string, open high string. And you can get a bass if you can get your thumb up there, right? And if you're looking for the melody, where is it? All right, now it's probably the only really chord that you might not be familiar with, that B flat major seventh. Sometimes if you look this song up, you'll see it just as a B flat. It really is a B flat major seventh. That's an open E. A minor seventh, or A minor really. G. It's a regular F, right? Okay, and then that will figure, that rhythmic figure with C, F, G, A. Okay, so that part, right? Kind of instrumental kind of break here. Back to the F major seventh. E minor. Now A. C. D seventh. And E7. Right. And then it goes back to part, whatever one it was, 3 or so where it goes. Okay, so I think that's most of it, and there's just that part at the end where it goes. Right, so that's G, E7, A minor 7th. Did you hear me, Major Tom? A, D, did you hear me? That's a C. I'm using the C at 9. And then back to G, Major Tom. Right? So that part again, it's like, let me see. Okay, I lost my train of thought there. It's so much going on in this song. All right, okay, it's G, E7. I think we've covered it all. I don't know if this is helpful or not, but it was kind of good for me to get it in my head, all the parts. Let me just play it. I'll just include it in one long video. I'll start from the beginning if you want to. And then you can practice singing along. Ben said he's going to sing this one. All right? And I don't have to make 2 videos. I'll see if I can make it through. All right? I'm going to also skip the intro. there's more about that song you wanted to know. But anyway, because since people were asking questions and that was a lot of fun digging into it last week, we will, provided people want to, we'll dig into it more this week. All right, see you later.